Amanda.
I'm Ben.
We're all to say welcome to our
Today
channel.
we're watching The Apothecary Diaries, Season 1, Episode 8. We're home, and our dad is okay.
Yes, we're very thankful for that because the two people in this room were a teensy bit worried about
Just a
our
little
dad.
And, you know, it was everything that I could have wanted and more. We were given interaction with the owner of the brothel.
The Third Degree House.
The exact details of how the interaction was between Mao Mao and her dad and the dialogue that was spoken between the two was cut me to my core. But what most intrigued me was the last line that we got from Mao Mao's dad about the rear palace. What a twist of fate. And I'm like, why? Tell me.
Tell
I love
me
this
more.
show.
I am so happy to be here.
You ready?
Yes.
Sweet.
Waking up.
Wheat stalks.
The comfort and nostalgia of waking up there.
Gotta go take a bath.
I was thinking that her dad seems kind of old to be her dad.
Whoa. Oh, shit.
A poison?
What? Watching how the abdomen reacts. Charcoal.
How often has she been summoned like that before?
Okay, whew, they're both stable. Damn, Mao Mao. Damn, work never stops for Mao Mao. Oh, shit.
What the hell
Are
was
they
that
trying to
face?
make me think that she's the one who did it? Wow.
So you learned it from somewhere. She was like so ready for this. Look at him.
I
love
am
it.
obsessed. Correct. Wow. Wow. I think the girl went for him initially.
Can't afford to.
Definitely not a double suicide, right?
妓女との未来を憂いて毒を飲むようには見えなかった。
Girl again.
ちょっと様子を見てくる。男の方が容体が重かったな。
Why would the girl be trying to kill them?
何やってる。
Oh shit!
こんなやつ死んだ方がいいんだ。
Oh! Mau Mau!
あんたたち何してるの。薬屋さん、ちょっとお話いいかしら。
Oh god.
元問題の多い客だったの。妓女に身請けをほのめかしては飽きたら捨てるを繰り返す。
He fakes them out.
逆上したけど豪商の父親に甘やかされて断るごとに金で解決してた。親に頼んで召喚まで護衛をつけて、この子の姉もあの男に捨てられた。
Wow.
これからは一緒に暮らせるって急に白紙にされて。
He's playing with their lives, basically.
だから許せなかったんだと思う。一緒に毒を飲んだ子にも懐いていたから。だから目をつむれと。そんな客にいいものを入れ込んだのはあの子の方なの。バギとなれば召喚としては頭が痛い話ですね。やけに手厚かったのはこの店で死なせずに済んだからか。そして理不尽に感じられたのだろう。わかりました。
Things are always so much more complicated.
私が家に帰っていたが、いつも買い物をしている子なら時間くらい知っていたかもしれない。
Wow.
It's almost like she was hoping he would.
わざわざ不在の薬屋を呼ぶ。あのカムロ、小さい割に恐ろしい。
Oh, I love that through line of girls being scarier than they look.
さっきの見せて。案の定、口止め料まで。
Including hush money.
でもなんだか引っかかる。して男はかなりしたたかだ。そんな男が惚れた腫れたならば無理心中か。いや、毒を盛られたことのある男がそう簡単に。
まおまお、憶測で物を言っちゃいけない。
Oh.
親父はもう真相に気づいているんだろう。思い出そう。現場に何があったか。
Right? All the evidence, not just speculation, have
タバコの葉は
evidence.
猛毒だ。器に紅が映らないように使うのか。これは心中じゃない。殺人だ。
もう終わったことだよ。
わかってる。
Wow.
犯行に使われたのはタバコをつけた毒の酒。しかし護衛をつけるほど用心深くなっている男にどうやって毒酒を飲ませたのか。酒は2種類、器は1つ。酒は中身が違えば
Wow.
重さが違う。重い酒の上に軽い酒をゆっくり注げば層ができて見た目が客を喜ばせる小ネタとして使えば怪しまれることな
And
く
she drank from the
No
lower.
wonder that she wasn't as badly off, right?
Uh huh.
Damn.
Quick.
That's crazy.
も上積みの酒を飲んだ。死なないように
Just a little bit so it wouldn't kill her.
自分も死んでしまえば元も子もない。
Wow.
男が死に自分が生き残る計算を考えた朝方にことを起こしたのだろう。そして都合よくそれを発見する人間がいた。
Wow.
儚げだがそれでいてしたたかだ。その行動はどこかおかしかった。男を手遅れにするためにわざわざ医者ではなく薬屋を訪ね、親父を呼ぶのにも時間をかけた。そこに姉ちゃんへの心配はなかったのだろうか。で、死なないと分かって行動しているようだった。そしてカムロにやたら同情的な技術、金払いのいいやり
Yeah,
手
she
が
kind of looked.
怪しいと思ったらいくらでも怪しいと思えてしまう。もしやみんな
In on it.
ずっと帰りたかった花町も本質は高級と変
No
わらない。
different from the rear pal. That's what I was
謎の出会
feeling.
い、鳥か
It's
ごだ。
both a
garden
garden
and
and
a
a cage.
閉じこもった空気に毒されていく。
Whew.
妓女も周りの毒を食らうことで甘い毒へと変わる。
Oh my god.
So good.
そんなことをいちいち考えていてはこの町で生きていけない。マオマオ、めいめい姉ちゃん。
One of the other three princesses.
年季がまだ1年残ってるし、マオマオが急に行方不明になってみんな心配してたのよ。パイリンもジョカもおばばも。
Wow.
そんなこと一言も。
That was worry.
でしょ、あんたが帰ってきたからよ。マオマオ、離れには行ったの？うん、後で行く。
What?
気をつけるんだよ。
親父も
What's in the annex?
行ってきます。
もう帰っちゃうなんて残念だわ。リハク様。
いや実に残念だ。
いい夢見れたみたいだな。一度天井の甘露を知れば地上には戻れない。
Poor guy has to leave so soon.
絞り取られることだろう。前払いで足りなかった銀を補うのは私だ。
帰ってくるときは連絡しね。
And bring more next time.
先が決定である。
We're back.
Oh my god.
Eh.
やたらこっちを睨んでいる。
応接室で待っているぞ。
Oh my god.
So cute.
Goshen, oh man.
Both look. Oh my god. Both the people left on the screen are like,
失礼いたします。
they've had to deal with him the last couple days.
Oh my
態
god.
度が悪い気がする。
He's so bothered.
気のせいだろうか。気のせいにしたい。
You are
気のせい
not.
にしよ
The timing.
リハクっていうのは
う。元引き受け人です。なぜに名前を知ってい
He
る？
knows
He's
the name.
investigated.
He
意味
investigated.
が分かって言っているのか。その意味が。
ええ、身元のしっかりした交換でなければ引き受け人にはなれないと。もう配っていましたので、義理でいただきました。
つまり義理でもらった。
I lost to a consolation prize.
俺もあげたはずなんだが、全く話は来なかったな。
Whoa.
I never heard from you.
要するに自分に話が
Yes!
来なかったのが気に食わないのか。申し訳ありません。人士様にご満足いただける対価など思いつかなかったもので。
対価ってなんだ？お前、それをリハクって
Oh
ええ、一夜の夢に喜んで。
no! No, Mau Mau! Mau Mau!
一夜。
大変ご満足いただき
Mau Mau!
こちらとしても頑張った甲斐がありました。
What a great shot.
Brings you back to the broken glass earlier.
君になる前
Look at him.
失礼しますよ。すぐ洗濯に出
He's
した方がいいこと
broken.
茶碗もすぐ片付けますから触らないでくださいよ。はあ失礼します。
Whoosh.
Oh, this
God.
is amazing.
Yokyu's like, this is the best time of my life.
Yokyu
really.
continues to be us. There's just more evidence
I
piling
know,
up.
I don't know. I might go like this to Mau Mau too after that.
I feel like I'm a mix between Gyokyu and Goshen. Like, okay, that was the Apothecary Diaries Season 1, Episode 8. I have two, like, big questions that are unanswered. One of them was from last episode, about, like, the twist of fate, right?
Mhm.
Granted, upon hearing that, my assumption wasn't that we were going to learn what that was next episode. But it is still fresh in my mind, and I am still thinking that it seems like there's an obvious familial connection between Mau Mau and the Rear Palace.
Mhm.
I just feel like I don't have enough to go off of in order to adequately guess what that could mean,
Mhm.
or what that could be. And then my second thing was have you visited the annex yet?
Yeah, okay.
And that was by Mei Mei.
Yes, Mei Mei, one of the 3 princesses of the Verdigris house. The first one I definitely am like ready to talk about, if you are, in terms of that line of dialogue at the very ending of episode 7. Like you said, it's not like we went into this episode expecting an explanation for that, because as we've already learned 8 episodes in now to Apothecary Diaries, the themes and ideas and parallels are woven in, and they might be separated between a few different episodes. Like they might lace in from episode 2, but you won't kind of be reintroduced to that idea or that character or some sort of phrase that parallels it until 2 episodes later. And an example of that from this episode is girls being scarier than they look. Us having this young servant girl being actually scarier than she looks, which weaves in something that we've seen of lines of dialogue about Mao Mao earlier on in the series. Like this series is constantly weaving things and paralleling things and bringing dialogue back or comparisons back, which tells me that that line is going to be woven in. But I also know that it can't be woven in until Mao Mao returns to the Rear Palace, which she now has at the end of this episode.
I other than something to do with like a family tie Mao Mao or her dad would have to the Rear Palace. Sorry, that's all I have to go off of. But for the annex.
Oh, we're done with the first one?
I don't have anything to talk about in the first one.
Okay.
Do you?
I just had one more thing to say
go
on
off.
that point. Because I think it's important, since we're trying to talk about her father in terms of possibly being a connector to the Rear Palace with Mao Mao. Her father is a question mark for me in terms of actual fatherhood, not because of necessarily character design, but because of age. He is so old that he should be retired from being in the fields. Not that that means he couldn't actually be Mao Mao's father, but I think that there's room in the conversation that he might be more so of a found father. Someone who took her in at a young age and has raised her. Whether for his daughter or for someone else, one of the women in the brothel, someone in the Rear Palace, I don't know.
I think that that's a great guess. I think that there is, like, it was very obvious to me that, like, just based off of the age, the assumption is could be on the table. And I think that might explain the close-knit relationship that Mao Mao's father has with the brothel, and the, how intertwined Mao Mao seems to be within it. And it's obviously high standing, right? We were told how much of like a get this basically is for somebody like Lihaku. Like these 3 princesses are talked about everywhere.
The Verdigris house is the top of the top.
My next thought is like, okay, we're reinforced this episode by the type of person who goes to these places. The type of people who, in terms of what their wealth and their standard and place is, would let them interact with other houses around here. So if that's the case for other houses around here, what would it take to have somebody without connections like Mao Mao to be able to visit one of the princesses, right? Where my mind would first go is somebody of high standing. If somebody from high standing did interact and go to a brothel, and it led to a pregnancy with a courtesan, a big fear would be bastards, right? Like, and what they could give in terms of like fear for succession and the potential of somebody else taking a rightful throne where they shouldn't have, right? Now, in terms of I don't know how that would fit within this story in terms of Mao Mao being that person, because Mao Mao's a female, right? And I don't know how they would be, like how next in line and rule, how that would be touched on within this specific story period of time and location. That's just because of my lack of education, but that's where my mind jumps to as well. If I start thinking about the theory that Mao Mao's father is just a father figure, my immediate thought would be a previous person at a brothel impregnating one of the courtesans, and the potential there of why you'd need to hide them or why it would need to be, you know, so secret would be because of a political issue, and again reinforced by the nature of Mao Mao's father, of how he would be so willing to help.
Right. And in this episode is when we get the idea of a situation that is currently happening to a courtesan where they are being led on with promises of love by a wealthy man. To the point that they love this man and then they try to murder him.
Yeah.
So it does kind of bring back to us this idea of like romantic feelings actually maybe being there sometimes. What if you did fall in love with a richer person that came into the brothel and they did promise to get you out, but they never actually did? What if one of them got promised that they'd be moved to the rear palace and it never actually happened and could be a concubine for the emperor?
Yeah.
It definitely, like, nothing is introduced in this story at a bad timing or a timing that doesn't actually make sense in hindsight.
Yeah.
And so I feel like the storyline that's happening underneath with the brothel that we go to, that's not the Verdigris home and that is another brothel, that storyline and what's happening with that courtesan is not just for nothing.
Oh, no, I completely agree. Because of how we talked about how everything is tied together in more narrative ways than just one dimension in terms of the Apothecary Diaries so far. Is that all you had for it? I think that bred a really good discussion in terms of, like, opening up a potential for Mao Mao's
a bit
true
of, like,
lineage,
theory
if there is
time.
one. Yeah. I feel like I have an okay attempt at talking about the Annex.
Okay, I have no okay attempt, so I would love to hear your okay attempt.
Now, I am solely basing this off of two things. One is concrete, the other is not. The one that's concrete is Mao Mao's expression after the sound was made, and then Mei Mei asks the question of, have you been to the Annex yet? And we can see the look on Mao Mao's face, and it's one that we don't get often from her. My second is based off of something that you've said, and that is that the idea of the Apothecary Diaries could be a romance anime, or have romantic elements in it between Jinshi and Mao Mao. And I don't have a lot of romance anime knowledge, right? But from the very little I do, there's often a trope of that love interest that the protagonist has, regardless of if that love has started to actually bloom or not, or feelings are told or reciprocated yet. There often comes a time within those series that the person who's interested in the protagonist learns or sees something happen to the protagonist, this person they care about, that is awful and fucked up and bullying and whatever you want to say. Yeah. And because of that, it elicits a very strong response. Now, because of those two things, it's a really fucked up thought, and I don't want it to be true, but I'm worried that the Annex is a place where Mao Mao would have to interact with somebody, probably a guy, and face some type of, I don't know, punishment for either being gone or that Mao Mao had to face before she was even kidnapped. We were told specifically what Mao Mao does to avoid this kind of interaction within alleys, but that doesn't mean something else could happen within the brothel itself that even Mei Mei has to go through.
Like, is there something that spurred Mao Mao's desire to fly under the radar, especially in the eyes of men, even more so than just hearing that kidnappings were happening?
Yeah.
Gotcha. I think that why I wouldn't scoff at any theory that comes in or any conjecture that comes in, specifically for this line of thinking. You could go to...
My mind goes to the previous emperor and Li Shu, and how that was a fucked up situation where a little kid is you know,
being treated
we
in
were
a bad
that
way,
we were
possibly.
given that standard. If we weren't, I wouldn't bring that to the table.
Mhm. And I think that just in that line of thinking, just like when you talk about it in a romantic idea with like Jinshi or a romance story, because I still don't actually know if this is a romance. I'm kind of hoping it is. Through lines with the series, we have Jinshi react very negatively to finding out about the freckles in terms of the alleyways and wishing that he could have stopped this from happening or protected Mao Mao in some way. It would lead, in the way that this story is being told, to there being more reason why Jinshi would want to maybe protect Mao Mao or other things that he in the future might learn about her, about the darkness of the world outside of the palace. We get this idea in this episode how both places are incredibly similar in terms of how dark they are.
Yeah.
And we've already been introduced to so many crazy things within 8 episodes of just murdering, suicide, poison, like gossip, rumors, bullying. Like there's been so much negativity that's been swirling around and people doing things to others that it almost is like this cesspool of darkness.
Yeah.
That I feel like once you are already entered into a universe like that being created in this narrative, then of course it would make sense for your mind to kind of expect that some other areas of negativity might be touched on.
Yeah. I think that it could just another thing to maybe tack on to, if that is something that the annex was, I think that would very much so go to explain why Mei Mei came in and potentially initiated a comfort or conversation with Mao Mao. Like if Mei Mei knows what it is and has to go through it herself, whatever is in the annex or happens there, then Mei Mei knowing that, holy shit, Mao Mao's back. Has this happened yet? Can I, like, I'm here to talk about it. Like, I'm, checking in.
Gotcha. I mean, one of my main hangups with it would be if the father knew about it, he wouldn't so nonchalantly throw out that Mao Mao should make sure to go take a bath at the Verdigris house and spend more time there.
That's fair.
But that's only if he knew
If
of
he knew
anything.
about it.
But the annex is a giant question mark. I don't know what else could be. There's so many other negative things, actually, now that I think about it, that could make her uncomfortable when we're being introduced to this world that is has a lot of negativity in it, or people wanting to harm others for whatever the reason is.
Yeah. It just, hearing the sound and then seeing Mao Mao's expression really fucked me up.
Mm-hmm.
It almost looked like a response, I don't know.
Like something that kind of triggered her fear. Like she almost got scared or fearful in that moment. That it might have been someone else.
Just like a reminder, or I know this is happening right now.
Gotcha.
I think that a couple lines of dialogue could be the next thing we talk about.
I think that it would fit
discussion.
Perfectly if it's what I'm thinking it is.
Yeah, it's a few though, so I'm gonna read through them, but one in particular was just so good. I really missed this pleasure district, but in essence, it's no different from the rear palace. It's both a garden and a cage. Great line. The stale, trapped air poisons everyone. The courtesans also eat the poison around them to become a sweet poison themselves. God. I love the writing in the show. It's so good.
Mm-hmm. Wow, it really does, like, now that you've kind of opened the door or conversation more to the fact, like dialogue about wrongdoings happening to women. Obviously, that's one of the things that happens in this episode is the, like, false love, the love promises, the promises to get you out of here and give you a good life, and it being just to play with your heart and maybe get more favors from you at the time. And the idea that the courtesans end up becoming a poison themselves from eating all of it. And that's really what we've seen is this courtesan, after being played with, has now become a person that's willing to murder. and wow,
This is a really good episode.
this is a good episode.
I really liked seeing like that we got to see where Mao Mao gets it from.
Oh yeah, her thinking, like
Yeah.
it's not just her that
And I
is
love
just like this.
I love her like gratitude and appreciation and like how she's impressed by her father and his deduction. And I think like what impressed me the most is that obviously he's thinking the same things, if not even further than Mao Mao. But it feels like he's played the game
Mhm.
of being in a palace.
Mhm.
Not saying he has, but in the terms of how he holds himself and nothing is affecting his face.
Yeah.
He doesn't necessarily have a thinking face, you know?
Mhm.
He is very plays it close to the chest, it seems like, within his deductions and what he's willing to do from that. And then that added with like the idea of him not even wanting to accept the money, whether it was because of a gracious thing or he knew
He knew
why.
what the money was.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, right, because if you accept the money, then you're basically accepting a bribe that you aren't going to tell anyone about what has happened here.
And-
that's basically what taking the money was
And
doing.
not taking the money there could have potentially been seen as nothing but, oh yeah, he's gracious and kind. But once Mao Mao brings up rent, then if you don't take it, that's
then
suspicious.
it seems like
yeah.
something, and then it seems like we have to have a mistrust of you. Yeah, it's definitely like he is much more seasoned in playing the games in terms of being hard to read, but also maybe better at reading things. Mao Mao is amazing thus far at those things, but we do know that a few times in the Rear Palace, people have seemingly started to think that she's thinking something she's not saying out loud and have questioned her on it.
Yeah.
Like Yokyu goes to her and is kind of like, okay, what were you thinking about Lady Fuyu? You know, in terms of like being happy and trying to fake the sleepwalking in order to be betrothed to the person that she truly loves. Like Mao Mao isn't as good at hiding the fact that she is thinking something and that she is like having kind of theories spiraling in her head. I think one of my favorite things that she's been taught and is reminded here, which you have the line pulled up
Mhm.
because you just knew
I wanted to talk about
and
it
you
so
wanted
bad.
to talk about it too. How about you read it then?
Mao Mao, you shouldn't speak based on conjecture.
Yes. Why do you love it so much?
But I mean, like, Mao Mao's spoken so much on conjecture.
and
like,
she always
but-
says to herself, "Oh, I don't want to speak on conjecture."
Well, no, it's like she prefaces with that it's conjecture.
Yes.
This is just conjecture, and it seems like okay, Mao Mao necessarily isn't trying to like go out of her way all the time to speak on conjecture, but with thinking things so adamantly, like and visibly within your expressions, it leads people of higher power to be like, what are you thinking right now? No. You have the freedom to speak. And then Mao Mao's like, okay, this is just conjecture, but this is my thought. And I wonder if that's ever going to lead to a, I don't know, a bad outcome. We've talked about it before, like the higher the ranking and more prominent of figures and individuals that Mao Mao is going to attempt to help, the consequence, if that help is not adequately received, is going to be greater.
Or if she is accused of lying.
Yeah.
Or if, you know, something she says is so offensive that she has
You
to be
started a
punished
rumor?
for the great offense. Like, the idea you brought up that her father has like this almost more respectful, he's like figured out how to handle maybe spaces that are more political, higher power spaces, in ones that, you know, you might be at risk of getting hurt or being seen as disrespectful. And so he's definitely playing it well. And it seems like he's definitely learned that from somewhere. And he's trying to continuously remind her, like, it's great to be able to do analysis. Like, he doesn't want to stop her from figuring things out and the truth of the matter. But what he's reminding her of here is, okay, make it not be conjecture. See if how much evidence or how many things you can lace together so that you could prove it.
Yeah.
Like, and that's really like him trying to continuously protect her is like, okay, yes, your idea and your theory is on the right track, but you can't stop there. You can't stop at the conjecture. You need to build up as much evidence as you possibly can here. But also, it's a good reminder to her that she might need to be careful in the future in terms of
So-
like not leaving things.
So going back to what you were saying about the idea of it being a twist of fate, that she's in the rear palace, and it could be that Mao Mao's dad isn't actually her dad, and there could be like a familial connection potentially
Mhm.
to like that of like prominence. I'm started to think about that, and I'm like, okay, well, how in this world at this time would that realistically be brought up and or cause dismay within this story, right? We don't have DNA tests. If realistically Mao Mao found out about it, I think that she would be told about it from one of the ladies in the Verdigris house, her own father, or heard a vague story from somebody within the palace of rumors of something happening that coincides with her own birth, and she figures it out. Either way, it's just conjecture.
Her birth could totally possibly be in terms of who her father is.
Yeah.
If it's not this father, it could totally be conjecture. Like, it could be one of those scenarios where she might know the name of her mother, and if said to the right person, it would be like, oh, I did have a thing with that lady once upon a time.
But even at that point, it would just be conjecture,
yeah.
right? How would you be, unless there was a striking resemblance,
yeah.
it would be like, unless we find a character that looks exactly the same as Mao Mao, and the only difference is they don't have freckles, and everybody's in the room's
Or
like,
they
oh, they
also
do look
do.
alike, but you know, Mao Mao doesn't have, Mao Mao has freckles, they don't, obviously they can't be related, and then like the people who do know that Mao Mao puts them on like
Yeah.
fake or like freaking out. I don't know.
Or a person that actually knew that they had been with whoever Mao Mao's mother was.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, definitely like the idea that whoever, if there is something to do with the rear palace or possibility that her father isn't actually her father, it could all still be based on conjecture. And if the possibility of one of the parents being of high status, coming with her having speculation or conjecture about who her family is, could put her in a risk. It could be a risky situation as well.
You know what I love? It's like, I don't love the act of killing people at all. But the way that they convey the intelligence of
The
the
cleverness.
ladies in waiting is so awesome to me, because within this world, regardless of your status, for the most part, as a woman, even if you're one of the three princesses, you are always susceptible to a man who is equal or lesser in power than you are doing something because of the position that they hold and the capabilities they have. I love that it's not just, oh, yeah, it's a girl, she tried to poison them. No. Like, there's so many layers of thinking throughout it in terms of like, oh, okay, let's have it appear as a double poison, but I'm going to make it appear that way. I'm willing to like poison myself lightly to try to sell like it. I love just like the thought behind action within this show, specifically towards the courtesans within the world. And also, like, God, I know that we're dealing with death every episode and the potential of it within poisons, right, and sickness. But something really caught me off guard in the scene that Mao Mao's right next to a girl with a knife. Like, I'm like freaking out, like, oh fuck, shit. Like, I loved Mao Mao headbutting her. That was great.
That was a great touch too. The knife thing did scare me a little bit. I was like, an injury could even a non-life threatening injury could happen so easily right now that it was a very tense situation. Before we leave the conversation where we were reading about how Mao Mao's father was, reminding her that she shouldn't speak based on conjecture, I just wanted to bring up really quick that that's not the only kind of lesson he is reminding her of during this visit, other than the normal, like, how to read a scene of the crime, you know? He says to her as she walks over to the water and she's still thinking about this, that she needs to leave it, that it's done. It's over. And what we've seen of Mao Mao, she has trouble leaving things that she's curious about. Like, if she's still trying to figure out the truth of it, she has trouble leaving it. She still leaves and is walking around the city thinking to herself as she looks up and sees the courtesan in the window. She's still trying to piece together what exactly happened. And her father is trying to kind of teach her, like, okay, the moment that you were offered the money is the moment you should have left it. You had done your job. You saved the person's life. After that point, there's nothing more that you should be doing.
Yeah.
And that is something that could possibly protect her in the future if she did employ it. But I also don't feel like that fits her character to leave things like murder or poison or helping people or not helping people. You know, things left unsaid doesn't really seem like something I can see her doing when she gets back to the rear palace.
Yeah. I think that's all I have.
Okay, then it's my turn.
Okay.
So one thing I wanted to bring up, because there's always parallels and connections between characters during the episode, I wanted to bring up the Jinshi and then the man that was attempted to be murdered in this episode.
Okay.
That kind of idea of spoiled rich kid with high influence, but one is actually a little more innocent in how he's depicted as a spoiled rich kid in this episode, where he's pouty and he's like, you left me, I've been bored for all these days, and you took another man with you and I looked up his name, and Dewey, I gave you a pin, I lost to a consolation prize. Like, you know, little pouty, everyone's like, oh, poor Jinshi, oh, Mao Mao, you so silly, you know? But he's spoiled rich kid with high influence, high power. And then we have another young man that is spoiled rich kid, high influence, high power in this world, this garden, the cage. And one man that's within that garden and cage of poison is attempting to be a poison and use his influence himself, while the other spoiled rich kid still has somewhat of a innocence and idea that he can be a positive influence on this world. When he hears about Mao Mao's needing to have freckles because of being kidnapped, he's like, we need to do something about that. I wish I could have protected you. I wish I could stop those men from doing that. And I really like that kind of what's being shown there, compare contrast.
Yeah.
You know, what they've given to Jinshi's character for this episode is really leaning into what the last couple episodes have been doing for him. That's taking him into more of a possible younger mindset and much.
I love what they're doing with Jinshi's character the last few episodes.
And it has the last 5 minutes. I don't even know if it was 5 minutes. I don't know how long the last scene was with Jinshi of this episode, but I cannot wait.
It was only like 3 minutes, but it was
over,
so fucking good.
When I leave this room, I am rewatching that moment. That moment specifically. The pacing. I've said that I've complimented pacing before in this show, but the pacing of them in their more, you know, comedic, cartoonish look, where she's cleaning up and she's like, okay, and then she goes whoosh and she leaves the room. He is in that pouty pose for a darn long time with his mouth agape.
Yep.
And the comedic...
I granted him a night of blissful dreams. He seemed very happy. I worked hard, so I'm pleased with myself.
Jinshi was broken. It was the best scene ever. And I am so glad that Mao Mao got a little bit of a punishment from that. But like...
Dude, the fact that Gyokyu knows Mao Mao to the point that, in my mind, Gyokyu knows that there's no chance anything that Jinshi is thinking happened.
Yeah.
But, like, just the misunderstanding. Oh, it's
everyone,
so good.
Everyone knows that Mao Mao didn't do anything except Jinshi. And they're all just kind of like, Mao Mao.
It's amazing.
It's because she's not connecting any of it. She wouldn't connect why Jinshi would care either.
Yep.
And oh my goodness, he was like, I gave you one too. Do you even know what it means? Which is telling us, like, he wants to be relied on by her.
Yeah.
Why else would he? If he upholds what the hairpin means and he gave it to her?
To take it back to the annex thing, like, if that is like a point of contention. Like, oh yeah, okay, I can't use him again. Jinshi did seem upset. I could try to utilize him this time. This is it. If Jinshi got to the hometown and found out what was going on, and it was something bad, and Mao Mao was like, don't even worry about it, Jinshi might fucking snap, you know?
Mhm.
Like, that's all I'm suggesting.
I feel like in the future, if anything, if he did be like a witness to anything of harm, like so far, any harm that's really come to Mao Mao has been for Jinshi, the past tense. It's been hearing about harrowing things that happened to her
Mhm.
before she got here on her journey to the Rear Palace. Nothing that he could jump in the way and defend her or
Mhm.
protect her from. And I think that he definitely would. And I am replaying the last 3 minutes of this episode when we leave this room.
All right, you good?
Yes.
Thank you guys so much for watching this video. Please like, comment, and subscribe, and we hope to see you next time.